Welcome back into another episode of the Prodigy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and on the other line, we have the handsome, who am I going to? Who? Steve, what's up, man?
How y'all doing?
And below Steve on my screen, we have PJ. What's up, man?
Everything's up. Good.
Master P.
Yeah, hold it down.
Oh, it should be Pastor P.
Yeah.
Pastor P.
Hey, PP, what's up?
Whoa.
PJ.
All right. Well, this is
professional today.
This is episode 100th Eve. So we're on the eve of our 100th episode. This is episode 99. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the first 99. We're going to do something fun on the 100th episode, so make sure to check that out. If you haven't checked out my interview with pro basketball player Chris Carter, you're going to want to go check that out. That's kind of a different format. But we're here today to talk about some fantasy football since we really haven't yet, especially since the draft. So, guys, I have some discussion questions or situations, I guess. Some of the best situations that some of the rookie running backs and wide receivers went into and how it affects the people already there and so on and so forth, and what we think about them for fantasy this year and moving forward. So the first person we got to start with, Super Bowl champions bring in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the only running back to go in the first round. I don't know about you guys. I was on the phone with PJ, I think, at that moment when he was drafted. We were both very surprised that it was this guy drafted in the moment because there was a clear, top 3, top 4 running backs, and he was probably number 5 or 6. But he fits the scheme. Steve, you are an Andy Reid guy just because of your ties to Philly, obviously. What do we think about the Clyde Edwards-Helaire strictly via fantasy this season? What do you think?
They've come out and said that it's still Williams' job to lose, but you don't put a first round pedigree on a running back and want him to sit unless you're Seattle.
Yep.
Rashad Penny. I would say that this is the closest running back Andy Reid's had since Westbrook. And that's something he's been chasing, obviously the Kareem Hunt, but there was some negative ties to that, and that's why he's no longer there. This is his dream scenario of a running back. The guy who has great passing chops, can pass protect. He's a 3-down back, doesn't have to come off the field, doesn't have much injury concerns, so I can see him supplanting Williams in no time flat. I would take a definite risk on him, but I would temper expectations. You don't want to take him too high in drafts, especially right now, thinking he's going to be, like if you're doing a redraft with everybody, not just a rookie draft. Rookie draft, obviously, he's top 2 or 3 pick. But in a redraft, you still have to heed with caution, or proceed with caution, I should say. Proceed with caution because we still don't know the depth charts, and they're saying Damian Williams will be a part, and it's looking like it could be a 2-man combo, but I'd say by end of season, it's going to be all Helaire.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, P.
I think there's hardly any teams that just have one bell cow back anyway. So the fact that the coach is saying that Williams is going to be the guy to begin with, even if he's the goal line back, I mean, this guy could have been the Super Bowl MVP. They're trying to show some respect for him, but there's no doubt that he is not the future of the Chiefs. And they just drafted a supremely talented running back who is probably the best receiving back in the whole draft class. May have been the best receiving running back in the last few drafts. But he also is someone that could, both of you guys could alluded to. He's a 3-down back. So he can eventually be the goal line back. He can be the guy that can carry the load for a while. But I do think just what Steve said, year one, I think I could see him producing like a 4th round running back, 4th or 5th round maybe. I think he'll be drafted higher than that because of
we're saying as of today.
Draft pedigree.
Right, PJ? You're saying as of today because if something changes.
As of today.
Okay.
Yeah, something could change.
I agree with you.
Reid seems to be very happy with him. He went out of his way to draft this guy, the only running back in the first round. The only thing that I would be concerned about is anyone that catches the ball that well could eventually be relegated to a third down back. If things don't go well, he struggles a little bit at the beginning, he could just be the receiving back, and he could get stuck there forever, which wouldn't be the end of the world in that offense. He's certainly going to still get his touches. But the expectation is that eventually he'll be a 3-down back, a really good one.
I think in other scenarios, if he goes to different spots, we obviously don't feel the same way. He's not the quickest guy. He's only 5'7". He doesn't jump off the tape as far as like athletic ability, but neither did Maurice Jones-Drew. You know, like that's why he went where he went in the draft. You know, these smaller guys that are well put together, they usually don't get hurt. I did look something up, and because we're talking about how he's like one of the best guys as a receiver, and they put him in the slot a bunch of times. They put him out wide, so he had 55 catches this season. Do you know how many career catches he had in his previous 2 seasons? Does anybody have a number?
No idea.
3 his freshman year and 14 his sophomore year. So he jumped crazy high amounts in year 3, which, I mean, if you are a pessimist, you're going to look at that thinking, okay, well, I like the talent of the top 4 running backs because talent's going to win all. And, 55 catches, they were in a prolific offense, and that's why he was able to produce and he was wide open. My counter to that will be the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have a prolific offense too. So it's going to be one of the same things where he's just walking into a situation, Andy Reid handpicking his guys, and, we've seen him go get Patrick Mahomes and then now go get CEH. Like, they're good players. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, it seems like Mahomes is really in love with him too. I mean, from what I heard, I don't know if this is rumor or really happened, but I mean, he told them to make sure you get this guy. That's pretty high praise from a Super Bowl winning quarterback with an incredible future on the horizon.
Damian Williams, though, at least for this season in redrafts, I feel like you're going to get him late. You're going to be able to get him probably at running back 2, running back 3 value. And there can be weeks that guy is going to produce a running back 1 stat line. I would sell high if he comes out on fire weeks 2, week 3, week 4, and he's producing 100-yard games. Sell. The guy is 28 years old, and he's in the last year of this contract. He's probably not going to be there, and if he is, I just don't see him coming back. To be honest, it seems like a Carlos Hyde situation to me. So
I feel like he's in the last year of his contract as well, and I think it's a cuttable. That's what we need Tyler for. He knows these numbers without even.
Yeah. Tyler just.
I'm pretty sure they can get out of it with very little dead cap. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even make it out of camp if this guy does good in the preseason and OTAs and stuff.
That would be wild. That
have
guy
the
helped
other
win a
Williams,
Super Bowl, man.
Darrell Williams.
Yeah, Darwin Williams or Darwin Thompson.
They have
right?
Darwin Thompson. They have Darrell Williams there too.
Yeah, they had 2 Williams.
Yeah, if you have some novice in your league, you might get those switcheroo.
I want to say they also signed like Jalen Richard. Or maybe, no, it was Washington.
No.
Richard stayed.
Yeah. Jalen Richard signed a pretty sizable deal.
DeAndre Washington signed with him.
DeAndre Washington. Yeah,
Yes.
that's who it was.
So that's probably one of the guys that is in the clear cut 1 and 2 in fantasy drafts.
You're looking at camp battle all day.
In rookie drafts, right?
Yeah. When you do standard redraft leagues where you have rookies in it, you can get them kind of wherever. But when we're talking about kind of these rankings, I guess we'll go a little bit more towards dynasty. All 3 of us are in a couple dynasty leagues together. So we have our rookie drafts coming up. BJ, you have the first pick. Our rookie draft.
Yeah, and I already had another league where we had the rookie draft on Saturday, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire went 101.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly too. The guy didn't even think about it.
Yeah, so the next guy we're going to get to is a guy that I was pretty excited for. Jonathan Taylor is he was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. They actually traded up 3 spots to make sure they got him in the second round. He went at pick number 41. we're talking about guys that are winners and losers. That's a great situation for him. Marlon Mack is probably a loser because he's in the last year of his contract. And, we talk about all the time how, good teams don't pay running backs. And it seems like the Colts are following that, that rule there because they drafted a guy. They're going to have him for 4 years, and maybe they pay Jonathan Taylor, but I could see them recycling him in 4 years from now too. PJ, since you have a decision to make in our rookie draft at number 1, and I know you've gone back and forth, what do you think about Jonathan Taylor this year and going forward?
Yeah, I think they drafted him to not just share the workload with someone else. And I know that's what they're saying, right? They're saying it's a 1A, 1B situation with Marlon
Mack. 1-1 is what they're saying it.
Yes.
I'm just not buying it. Jonathan Taylor is too talented of a running back for them to select. They have so many good pieces, an incredible offensive line like that, a total game changer in Jonathan Taylor. With my concern with him as far as dynasty drafts is the workload that he had in college, but there are some people that kind of transcend that. He never got hurt. So he had that workload in college. He could be one of those guys that, like Frank Gore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he had some tread on the tires that people were concerned about, and even a surgery, I think, in college.
Frank Gore tore his ACL 2 seasons in a row in college. That's what his concern
Yeah.
was.
And then when he comes into the pros, he was the picture of health.
Yep.
I mean, he barely missed a game.
Still playing
at age 37.
Yeah.
But not to compare those two, because I think Jonathan Taylor's more talented even. He's an exciting type player. It's sad because Marlon Mack did nothing wrong other than not staying healthy. Mm-hmm. And he's still only 23 years old, so I would hope that they let him go after this year and he gets a job somewhere else as a starting running back. But Jonathan Taylor has some weaknesses with receiving, at least not a huge background in college. Like some of those numbers you gave us for Hilaire were similar to the numbers that Taylor had for 2 years.
8.
And then all of a sudden,
8
last year he had what, 26?
23. So he had 8 as a freshman,
23.
sophomore, 23. And, I kind of looked up because a lot of people have compared his run style, at least to Zeke, and Zeke had way more catches in college, even freshman and sophomore years. He definitely had more. So, but, we'll see.
I think Zeke's a little bigger, right? A little bigger, and I think Taylor's a little faster. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
I mean, he is insane at the combine. So, not too many athletes have that combination of size and speed.
Yeah,
he's not the juker. Doesn't have the receiving chops that some of these other backs do. Those first 3 or 4 picks, but he's certainly the goal line back. I mean, I can't imagine them handing it off to Marlon Mack on the 1-yard line if they really in huge games.
Nah.
He's also someone that could break off 80-yard runs.
Yeah,
I'm excited about him.
Yeah. Steve, what do you think?
Wright comes from the same coaching tree as Doug Peterson. I could easily see this being a 3-headed monster because you still have Nyheim Hines in there.
Yep.
You'll get your first 2 running backs and Mack and was it Taylor? I want to say Williams for some reason. Still on the Williams. Between Mack and Taylor, they'll still get their carries. You're probably looking at 250 and maybe 180 kind of range. You're going to run the ball a lot more. You're going to pass the ball a lot more to the running backs because of Phillip Rivers' style. And your lack of true tight end, even though you picked up
Trey Boo Boo.
Yeah, Philly special himself.
Mm-hmm.
You still lack the. I think your tight end depth is weak, and when you have weak tight end depth, you have good pass catching running backs. Those are the guys you kind of want to target. It's a muddled backfield right now, and I would just temper all expectations on all of it because they're going to use Marlon Mack up, they're going to use Williams, and they're going to use all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Unless they find a trade partner for Marlon Mack or something, and he gets shipped out, I would expect all 3 guys to touch the ball back there.
Yeah, a fear I have, only for fantasy. For the Colts, I'm ecstatic. But for fantasy, it could kind of be a San Francisco type deal, where
Mhm.
one day Tevin Coleman is he's the guy. He has 20 touches and he's killing it. The
It's the
next
hot
one,
name.
the next time he doesn't play, it's Raheem Mostert or it's Jeff Wilson, getting touchdowns on the goal line. Like, we're
Yeah.
not going to know. You make a great
5 carries, 4 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. You make a great point though. Hines, I mean, look at the numbers of Darren Sproles years ago from when he had Philip Rivers
Woodhead,
quarterback. Woodhead, Austin Eckler.
Melvin Gordon.
He's produced RB1s just based off passing alone.
Passing,
These aren't Theo Riddick numbers. These are like legit numbers. And Naeem Hines,
Theo Riddick.
well, Riddick will catch 100 balls for 100 balls for 500 yards, 5 yards per catch.
Yeah.
No,
100
but
balls for 107.
that's kind of what I look at. I think going forward, though, I think with Marlon Mack out of the picture the following year, most likely, I think it's a great scenario. I think Jonathan Taylor could be a beast. I feel like the Colts are going to run the ball 2 out of 3 times every single time down the floor.
Yeah, I'd say Philip Rivers goes into a game manager, and behind the offense, you have one of the best offensive lines in the league in Indy.
Mm-hmm.
So your offense is going to be potent, and to keep your defense off the field, you're just going to run the ball a lot. You're going to control the clock.
Yeah.
So it could be an offense where you kind of avoid.
Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I think that the window is kind of small for the Colts to win now with Philip Rivers. So I think each game is going to mean so much to them. I believe that the cream is going to rise to the crop. The cream's going to rise to the top.
We're all kind of rusty.
And they're going to go with. They're not going to sit Taylor if he's playing awesome. I just don't think they are. The difference between them and the 49ers situation is I don't think there's a single running back on the 49ers that quite has the talent that Jonathan Taylor has. That I know there's 2 ways to look at it. It was when we watched the draft, it was a just sad location for Taylor to go when they already have two established running backs, 2 pretty young running backs. And Hines already had 1 season with 70 receptions without Philip Rivers. So now he's there. I mean, I feel most confident that he's the guy he's going to be the change of pace third down back, because that's all he does. But I just don't know how in the world you could draft someone like Taylor and then just split early down plays with him and Marlon Mack.
I think it's going to be
how they could do it.
serious.
It's a second-round pick. It's not a first-round pick, first of all. And second of all, it's been done throughout times. Miles Sanders had to earn his role last year sitting behind Jordan Howard. He was a second-round pick. He's got
the first game of the season, PJ, David Montgomery didn't step on the field. He was on the field for that first play when they had Mike Davis, Tariq Cohen, and David Montgomery. And then David Montgomery didn't see the field, I think, through the first 2 series.
Right.
Then he came in, and he didn't earn that backfield until later in the year, and that's why so many people are low on David Montgomery, because they look at the cumulative score of what he produced, and they're like, what is this? You have to earn it.
The difference between those 2 running backs is David Montgomery's slow. I mean, he's just not a fast back. He's good at breaking tackles. It's kind of like a little bowling ball, but Taylor is just insanely fast. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think those first couple games for sure. Who?
Trunge Candidate. Exactly.
Who's that?
Exactly. He was fast.
What year did he play?
He played for the St. Louis Rams when Marshall Faulk was there. They drafted him in like the 2nd round, I think, to replace Marshall Faulk eventually. And all he was fast. Wind blew, he fell over.
Well, that's not Taylor, but
Kalen Ballage style.
Yeah,
But Taylor had 2 2,000-yard seasons in college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, playing some pretty good competition.
There's a history.
I'm just saying, we can't anoint this guy the champion, and he hasn't even touched the ball yet.
That's where I'm at. I'm towing the line, Steve. I'm in between you and PJ.
I love the talent. I'm just saying, let's like you said, cream rise to the top. It has to do it. You don't just draft the guy and say, hey, it's yours. You won. Marlon Mack had 1,000-yard season for you. Didn't he just have like 8 or 9 touchdowns last year too?
Yeah.
So I mean, he has talent as well. His problem has been staying on the field because of injury. That may be why you got the next guy. He goes down. Naheem Hines can't handle the load by himself, and Jordan Wilkins is nothing more than a plotter. So you want that 1A, 1B punch. If 1A goes down, 1B just becomes 1.
Yeah, exactly. And Hines is just going to have a constant role no matter what.
And like you said, Chris, you just keep the stable stocked at running backs because they're not even getting second contracts anymore.
Exactly. And the way they're looking at it, you just watch Tennessee go to the AFC title game just behind running the ball constantly. The 49ers made it to the Super Bowl by running the ball.
All I'm saying is I wouldn't be surprised if neither one of those running backs ended up as an RB1, which means in the top 12.
That's fair.
Year one, right? You're talking about year one.
That's what we're talking because Marlon Mack is still here. Year 1 is 100%. Year 2, I mean, if you're in a dynasty, you're all over Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to? I thought you had something to say, Chris.
Oh, no. I was going to say, year 1 is a toss-up. Like, you don't know how it's going to work, especially with the COVID stuff. If he doesn't get into the system or is running behind.
You have a talented back. You can work. You can, while you acclimate your rookie to your system and everything, you have a nice talented back. And when it's done, you can say, hey, see you later, bud. It was fun.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well,
one more thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to complete that statement. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them ended up as an RB2 situation, though. You could easily see that happen, like in San Fran, how you had 2 running backs become finish running back 2 or 2-3 range. I just don't think that
while they played. I mean, you would have to have 2. They both would have to have 1,000-yard seasons because they both don't really catch the ball well.
Yeah, but I could see them.
Marlon Mack had like 60 catches last year, I thought.
I see.
No, he had like 29.
I see them though. They get in the red zone. They're going to score touchdowns via the run. They get in the red zone. That's how it's going to happen. T.Y. Hilton's going to have his 6-7 touchdowns via bombs that are thrown or from play action. And, I'd expect Paris Campbell to get a little action. Michael Pittman, same thing. Like their offense is going to be a lot better this year. Jack Doyle
open up the run.
Doyle could end up having a bunch of touchdowns this year just because of the way we've seen this offense be played. It's a combination of.
This is an offense I want a part of this year.
Yeah. Me too. And I feel like most of the pieces besides Jonathan Taylor can be had at a fair rate. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you're not going to have to overpay to get most of these guys.
Let's just hope it's not the Cleveland situation where we all were part of that offense and it was nothing.
Yeah.
But Phillip Rivers has a little bit more veteranness to him. He's not frozen in time. He knows what he's supposed to do, and he knows the system already. He's not starting behind the 8 ball.
Right. There was way more hype in that Cleveland team than this Colts team, and I definitively feel, not only as a fan, but I feel like this Colts team, just their infrastructure and everything, they're going to be so much better than anything that Cleveland team was, and you can have these guys way lower rate to buy in fantasy.
As dumb as it sounds, when you look at fantasy, you're buying into offensive lines. Why do you think Zeke always goes so high? He's talented, and he runs behind one of the best lines in the league. You have to pay attention to offensive lines, believe it or not.
Yep. Hey, Jared Goff and Todd Gurley fell off cliffs after
horrible
offensive line.
Yeah. Well, it's also because what's his name was there. He's the quarterback killer.
Who are we talking about? Because it's not Jeff Fisher.
Coach. Yeah, Jeff Fisher. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
on that team, he had Jared Goff. He had who's the guy that went to the NFC Championship in Minnesota?
Oh, Case Keenum, and he had
Nick Foles on the same roster, and they went 7-9.
Yeah,
they were all in championship games 2 years later.
No bueno. All right. Let's move on because that went really long. Okay, I guess really quick, since Steve, you don't have the first pick, I don't want PJ to, show his hand. You have the first pick in a fantasy draft, half-point PPR. Who do you take? JT, Dynasty, JT, or Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
I'm taking Edwards-Helaire.
Okay, so then obviously in PPR, you're definitely taking,
Edwards-Helaire.
Okay. All right. And I don't want PJ to show any hand.
Yeah, just sit there stoically, young man.
Yeah, just
Look at him.
the rustic one. Just keep it stoic. All right, let's move on to the next guy. J.K. Dobbins. So this is another situation where you have an established running back already there, Mark Ingram. Although Mark Ingram this will be his age 30 season. He is on contract next season, age 31. His cap hit is $6 million, but if they cut him, it's only 1.3. So I think there is a distinct possibility of Mark Ingram not being there past this year. What do we think about J.K. Dobbins landing with Baltimore? Steve, what do you think?
I think year one, we're gonna wait. Dynasty League, I want this guy.
Yeah.
Me
I have the
and
third.
Tim,
I have the third pick, and I can pretty much tell
Right.
you, I'm into this guy.
Me and Tim thought he was the best running back in the draft. He just full skill set. Those are the guys that are really great at other things. I felt like he was the best at all of it. The best overall running back. He's going to go to a situation of a true running offense. He's probably going to see 100, 150 touches this year, but it's still Mark Ingram's backfield. Mark Ingram doesn't have that many carries on his legs.
No.
He was lightly used because he was always part of a committee in New Orleans. He did have a suspension for PEDs. He was in a committee at Alabama. So the 30 may not kill him right away, but getting out of that contract, like you said, next year, they can let him walk knowing that they got a nice young running back on a rookie contract getting ready to slide right in.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, P.
Yeah, I think Dobbins fell into an even better situation than Helaire, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Ingram is there, but he's already proven that this guy is, just like Steve said, he can be effective in committees. And even last year, while he was the quote-unquote lead back for Baltimore, Gus Edwards had like 700 yards. And this guy's better than Gus Edwards. So my only concern would be is if they want to use a three-headed monster, which was some of our concern with Indy. But I think it'll be those two guys. I think Ingram will probably be the goal line back this year. He's really good at that. And Dobbins is going to be the beneficiary of working with this great offensive line, a good organization, a young quarterback, a running quarterback who we've seen that really just vaults the value of running backs in those kind of systems.
Yes, it does.
And there's no way Jackson's going to run as much and as recklessly, even though it led to an MVP. He can't do that the rest of his career. So I think he'll kind of pull that in a little bit, and that'll defenses still have to watch out for Lamar Jackson doing that. But I think it's going to open up a lot of holes for the running back. And I love Dobbins too. I wouldn't have called him my number one back coming into the draft, but I think he landed in the best system, the best situation, even though there's already a really good running back there.
Oh, so you're going to take him number one then?
For a dynasty?
Yeah.
It doesn't return immediate value. The number one you kind of
that is a good question. That might change things for me. Definitely not this year. I don't think he has a chance at Helaire or I've already told you how I feel about
those other guys. Yeah.
But long term, I could
without
see.
a doubt, yeah.
Yeah, long term, he could be the best. I could see him 10 years from now being the best in this whole class.
Yeah, it's a tough conversation just because, the situation that obviously Clyde Edwards-Helaire landed in, that's the best situation. I know you're saying this, but like Andy Reid, the way he tailors his offenses, and if he kind of has a Brian Westbrook clone, that's going to be used. And Jonathan Taylor, hey, I'm happy at number 3 because one of those 3 guys has fallen to me. J.K. Dobbins, he comes from Ohio State. They run a lot of RPOs, which he's going to walk right into in Baltimore with the most effective guy at it. It might be a 2-year thing because they might be going for a title. So that's a risk you take in taking Dobbins. But I would be surprised if Mark Ingram's there next year.
It's a whole philosophy where they stack on a quarterback's rookie contract because they become the highest paid players. So you want to double up and triple up at any position that you can and get them while you're still on your rookie contract.
And they could technically do that next year because, they went up and got him in the first round so we can have that 5th-year option. So next year will only be year 4. They can still pay Mark Ingram, and that's the homie. Big trust. You know what it do. Lamar Jackson in the flesh. Like, them boys are tight, man. Like,
Yeah.
it would kind of hurt him a little bit for Mark Ingram to go. So that is a concern for sure. But, hey, Kamara was really effective still for fantasy, even in limited touches. So either way, the talent's going to play out. I mean, it's just going to happen. So you guys have any?
Yeah, we didn't say about Dobbins, but Dobbins is a good receiver too.
Oh, I mean,
he's a good receiver. Yeah.
In our draft previews that we did with Tim, Steve and I, we definitely covered that, and Steve alluded to that too. That's part of the reason that Steve and Tim had him as the number 1, because he could do it all. He's not the smallest guy.
Fastest.
But he's not the fastest, but he's one of the fastest. Like he can do it all. He's elusive. He can do everything. So it's a great landing spot, and I anticipate him being there at 3. But shoot, if Jonathan Taylor falls to me at 3, I'll be happy with that. I'll be happy. God. Don't matter. All right, let's kind of keep going. Cam Akers goes to the LA Rams. This definitely poo-poos on Darrell Henderson people that were super excited about rostering him all of last season. This is kind of the same thing, though, where they started going to at the end of last season. It was a 3 running back committee, basically, kind of killing everybody's fantasy value. I mean, Darrell Henderson really wasn't used. Malcolm Brown was used. Malcolm Brown's only 26 years old, so it's not like he's old. But Cam Akers, people are really excited about him. His tape sucks. Like, I was not excited watching some tape on him, but that Florida State offensive line is so bad.
Bad.
So it's real. Like, you're basically forecasting, the talent, because if you just watch tape, I mean, I just sat here and watched tape for a half an hour on a bunch of players before this started, and it did not excite me. But you have to know the context. And, for him to still average 5 yards per carry behind that offensive line is super impressive. They also put Cam Akers out wide so he can catch the ball as well.
Well, he's a 3-down back for sure.
So what do we think about Cam Akers, and how does it impact Darrell Henderson? I just traded for Darrell Henderson in another league, 2 months ago. Felt kind of confident about it. I feel less confident about it now. So somebody just either poo-poo on me or make me feel better. PJ, what do you think?
I think out of all the top 5 backs, he's the one that has the clearest picture as far as this clearest path to playing time. There's no superstar in front of him. There's no really good running back in front of him. But it's not a great situation. They don't have a good offensive line. The direction of their organization is in doubt. It seems to be, however Jared Goff goes, that's how the Rams will go. But Jared Goff didn't look so good. Probably the last 20 games of his career. I think Cam was a very highly touted high school running back. I think he was the number 1 recruit. Goes to Florida State, and we all know what happened next. Still was able to produce with a terrible offensive line and terrible weapons around him. So there is hope that he could be better in the pros than he was in college. But it's, I would worry about that organization and playing for that team. And I could see them going to a 3-headed monster.
For sure. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Cam Akers was kind of like the sneaky 3-tool back that you could catch on the back end later in the draft. A lot of people thought would fall into a spot like Tampa where he would be highly utilized and could be a sleeper in this year's draft. The talent is there. FSU's pumped out some decent running backs in the last few years, and his talent has been right along with these guys. What's the guy at Atlanta that just got cut?
Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, I'm having problems with names today. I think
Devontae Freeman. They had Dalvin
Freeman and
Cook.
Cook, and I would say he's right in between them two. I
Yeah.
don't think he's as good as Cook, but I think he might be a little bit better than Freeman.
And we saw
Um,
Freeman produce amazing fantasy numbers
right.
for a 3 or 4 year
And
span.
You've
Yeah.
seen what the Rams do with the running back with touchdown. You know, how many touchdowns did Todd Gurley have in that 2 year span before the knee started going? And we talked about this last year. Remember when we were talking about fantasy leading up to it? I kept telling people they were going to have 3 new interior offensive linemen. Don't touch the running game. Don't touch them. Don't touch them. You can go review the tape. How bad were they last year?
Really bad.
They had, I know, because they had something like 157 snaps between the 3 of them, and they'd been in the league for a year or two, and I just didn't want to touch it, and I tried to warn as many people as I could. If they picked up any kind of interior line help, this guy could be pretty solid pickup, and they're going to have to run the ball more. And I noticed they went to 2 tight end sets more last year because they couldn't block for a damn.
Something to keep in mind is, number one, we talked about this team had no money to be able to spend. They still haven't been able to sign one of their players.
He's in hold.
Yeah, and so they had 2 second-round picks. They had no first because they traded that in the Jalen Ramsey deal. So you're looking at this team, and you know their offensive line has struggled. You have Darrell Henderson there still. You have Malcolm Brown. And instead of taking an offensive lineman, which Josh Jones was rated as a possible first-round pick, you took a running back and a wide receiver, basically replacing the 2 guys you just traded or released and let go in Todd Gurley's case. At that point, you're not really making your team better. You're just throwing something else in and just like, here, I hope this still works. They did take an offensive lineman later in the draft, either in the 3rd or 4th round.
I was going to say that. Sometimes these coaches act too smart,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't need you get me, position talent. I'll make anybody work at offensive line. That whole Bill Belichick type. I can make this grocery store bagger over here my quarterback philosophy. No, you got to grab the talent when it's there.
Yep.
And their money was so bad. I remember when I had them in the mock, and I just kept trading back, trying to gain more 3rd and 4th round picks so I could
pay
just
them.
fill my roster because I think they're kicking Jared Goff's contract all the way around to try to free up the money. And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. Of course you will, because you ain't going to have anybody blocking for you soon. You're going to have to.
You talked about the coaching. Sean McVay is literally kind of the Matt Nagy of that division, where I'm smarter than everybody else. I mean, it's probably the reason he lost the Super Bowl.
It's like the Chip Kelly thing.
Mm-hmm.
It worked for a little while because it was shiny and brand new, but if you don't keep evolving with it, and they start to catch up to you, and it's a copycat league, they'll mimic you, then their defense will figure it out, and then you get shut down. And that's why if you looked at the end of last season, Cooper Kupp's numbers fell.
Robert Woods' numbers went through the roof.
Because Cooper Kupp was coming off the field, and they were going to 2 tight end sets because they couldn't block anyone because everybody was using that New England Super Bowl defense, which was like a 4-6, where they were just lining up across. Okay, you're going to run wider than us? Well, how are you going to run wider than 9 people wide? Have fun. And then you lost all your interior linemen, so they were just running right up the middle anyway.
Yeah.
Jared Goff ran for his life. Sorry.
Excuse my 5-month-old puppy that is barking in the background. I don't know what's going on. My wife has a council meeting going on for church, and I'm doing this, so she's running buck wild. And
she's having a good time. Leave her alone.
Yeah, she's enjoying herself. It's just with the Rams, and it's funny you talk about. I know we're talking about the rookies and stuff, but Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks is gone, so now Cooper Kupp's value kind of goes up a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
People are really low.
They
on
did bring in Van Jefferson, which a lot of people are high on.
Yeah, but I mean, you're a Cooper Kupp owner. Cooper Kupp he's that dude. He's really good,
especially in the red zone.
He's another year removed from the injury, right, PJ?
Yeah, that's right. Good call.
So, what range? Where are we at with Cam Akers, though? Where do you take
full redraft or rookie?
Let's just kind of stay in the realm of rookie draft. Where do you I guess slot him? PJ, what do you think?
we just had our rookie draft, and he went 104. I would never take him that high. He went before DeAndre Swift. He went before any receiver, and we know how good this receiving class is. And it was a PPR league.
Well,
Um,
to counter
So-
what you just said, it is that good of a receiving class. So if there is a running back, you might want to take it because there's so much depth at receiver.
Yeah.
So I can see why
there's
he
definitely
did it.
depth,
Right. I can
but
see
I
why
think
he did
there's
it.
two superstars, two superstar receivers.
Yeah,
It
but
didn't land
That
in
landed in
perfect
quality
situations.
position. Right. No,
I was
see,
gonna
agree
say,
with you.
like, I-
it matters where they land because I think there's a lot more than two.
yeah, I got two more running backs to hit real quick, and then we can
All right.
go into the receivers. So, DeAndre Swift, that guy, supremely talented. He was the second running back taken in the draft. But Kerryon Johnson's there. He's 24 years old. He's still a good player. He's just another one of these guys that, I mean, even more so than Marlon Mack. He can't stay healthy, period. And you're always scared of, with Detroit, they're just the poop show of the NFL. They're one of those kind of like Cleveland. You're weary because it's like, dang, it's another really good player going to this situation where they kind of just dry out and die. It's unfortunate because PJ, I know this was your number one running back coming out. You were so excited about DeAndre Swift, and then he went to this location, and
Sorry.
and your immediate thoughts were what?
Boom, boom, ba-doom.
I'm more concerned about the team, and then the division they play in.
Yeah,
And
they're going in the wrong direction for sure.
but yeah, it totally changed him from being a 1.01 for me. He was going to the draft. He's the reason why I tanked. He is exciting. The most.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you just admit tanking?
Yes, he
Did
did.
that just happen?
Just
Yes.
for educational purposes.
Yes.
So anyway,
Yes.
So,
this clip is
but
staying.
this shows you why tanking doesn't always work, right? So you do something like this, he ends up in a terrible location.
Yeah.
You could have 5 worthy
Shiny
101 picks.
consolation prize.
But so my favorite analogy of DeAndre Swift is like he's like a sports car that's going like 100 miles per hour and then shifts to neutral and then can just change on a dime and go in a different direction at 100 miles per hour. His tape is just unbelievably impressive with how he moves and his lateral agility. He has great able to catch the ball. Not quite as good as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but on par for sure with Dobbins. The other thing I absolutely love about Swift is he has the least amount of tread on his tires than all of these running backs. Georgia is just known for using multiple running backs, and he was there as a freshman when Sony Michel and Nick Chubb were both there. And he was still able to produce and had some big moments for that team. But coming to Detroit hurts. I'm not afraid of Kerryon Johnson as much as I would be Marlon Mack. He's had essentially 2 season-ending injuries. I drafted Kerryon Johnson a couple years ago in a dynasty league. They say his problem is that he runs kind of upright, which will lead to more injuries, and he also has narrow hips. And so they just are convinced that he's always going to be injured, that he may never be as good as, even in college, he was constantly getting banged up. So I think they realize that, and in my mind, Kerryon's pretty much done. I think Marlon Mack can succeed with someone else in the future in his career, but I think Kerryon is he's lost a step already, and he's going to keep on getting injured. The problem with Swift is what kind of offensive line do they have in Detroit? How well have they had a really successful running back?
Theo Riddick. We already talked about him.
Yeah,
Reggie
PPR
Bush was the last
reception
1,000-yard back.
Wow.
Yeah, but no bell cow back, right? So
No.
it's been a
Reggie
while.
Bush, baby.
Didn't
Oh
he?
man, Reggie Bush had 1,000 yards like back in '96. No, I'm just kidding.
Isn't that when Reggie Bush is that when he got hurt in the St. Louis arena when he stepped on the tarp or whatever and tore
I
his
think he was
Achilles?
playing for Buffalo then.
That's when that happened. I was like, I knew it was an
He didn't
indoor
even play
play.
a single down for him. He tore his ACL just stepping on the tarp or something. He wanted to sue the
So
people of the stadium.
Yeah.
I don't remember that for some reason.
Oh,
It was
that's
the
all
end
right.
of his career.
Yeah. He was not relevant.
So I'm still excited about Swift. I wouldn't take him at 101, but I was more than excited about the guy that I was willing to tank for. Was there for me in this other league at 105. He may not be a bell cow at the beginning, but he has a bright future.
You're going to have a tough decision to make if he falls to 105 in this draft too, because in that draft that you did, you didn't have 101 as well.
Right.
So,
But I need a receiver. One of those first two picks has to be a receiver for me.
yeah.
So
Well, I think he's got Kamara upside. He has that home run potential anytime he touches the ball. So I don't think he needs a bunch of touches to get high fantasy value. And if whatever running back lands the PPR role in Detroit, let's hope it's him because like you said, it's the stops on a dime, kind of like LaShawn McCoy, If he gets it, Detroit's going to be losing a lot. Matt Stafford's going to have a great season playing from behind a lot. Galladay, and if Swift is the pass catching back, those would be the three guys I'd run.
People are sleeping on Marvin Jones too. His first games when Stafford was playing, Marvin Jones was putting up those
I
really
got
nice
him
Marvin Jones
late
numbers.
in our draft. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I was like the 23rd round or something like that.
It was bad. It was bad, and I regret not taking him. But at that point, I had already gotten like a couple other guys. So DeAndre Swift. All right, so we've named the 5 top running backs, I guess. If you had to rank them, where you're at. This is a 1-point PPR league. Steve, since you win
Dynasty
so much,
or
Steve, you win so much, you're really low in the draft. You're probably not going to get any of these 5. Where would you go? With,
I'm not getting any of these guys.
are you talking Dynasty, Chris?
yeah, I'm
We're
talking
Dynasty.
Dynasty.
Okay.
Where are you going with this with your rankings?
Well, Edward Solaire is one because it's probably immediate value.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Edward Solaire, probably Taylor and Dobbins, like right. It's 1A, 1 or 2A, 2B kind of thing. Swift because of it being Detroit, like PJ said.
And then Akers.
And then Akers, and Akers could have the most surprising upside.
Yeah.
Like he said, it just goes by team value, really.
I can literally, I probably agree with your list wholeheartedly. Like that would be the ranking. DJ, what do you think?
For standard leagues for redraft, Hilaire, Taylor, Dobbins. For a dynasty, I think Dobbins, Taylor, Hilaire.
Wow. So I guess we know who the first pick's going to be.
But that could change in a week. I have been flip-flopping with these guys.
Just know that literally changed. If that becomes PJ's 1, that literally changed today because literally the other day was somebody else.
No, you guys helped change my mind about it. You made me realize long-term, if we're talking long-term, I really like Dobbins' situation the best.
I do want to remember, though, we were pretty excited about Justice Hill going there last year, too.
Yeah, I know. I got him.
So,
I was excited for what he could do for the next couple of years. I wasn't thinking this guy's going to be a stud for 10 years.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking Gus Edwards would be getting the ball before him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but that's the thing you have to remember though with Baltimore. They have 4 legit running backs at this point that could probably produce in the NFL. So you have 4 that can produce there. You have 3 in Indy, and you have 2. And Damian Williams always gets hurt in KC. So that's something that
they have a quarterback that is awesome at throwing the ball. He's going to throw so many touchdowns.
Well,
you think it's going to only be to the running back?
He doesn't throw that much to the running back.
I was a Kareem Hunt owner. It felt like he was getting a touchdown every time I checked.
And that wasn't with Pat Mahomes, though.
That wasn't with him the second year?
Second year it was.
Or his Kareem Hunt's second year. He was still put up great numbers with Mahomes, but obviously not as much as Alex Smith because Alex Smith this is before he got hurt. He can only throw the
check
ball
down, baby.
25 yards.
Yeah, but I picture Mahomes one of these years throwing like 60 touchdowns. I mean, he's that good. I mean, and he could do it just to say, okay, this is one thing I haven't accomplished. I've won 3 Super Bowls, a couple MVPs. Let me throw for 60 touchdowns.
Yeah. I don't think that's happening this year. I think they picked a running back in the first round to limit that. Like they realize you're playing the long game. As long as you make the playoffs with Patrick Mahomes, you're pretty good. They were down 21 points. Chad knows this, down 24 points to the Texans. Like,
Well, it's also if you fear the run a little bit more, you can't pass rush as much, which saves your quarterback from getting hurt more often.
yeah. So instead of doing a QB sneak where your quarterback's kneecap literally gets dislocated and then pops back in,
You don't worry, he's triple
Run
jointed
the
or
ball.
something.
huh?
He's triple jointed. It pop right back in. It's fine.
That is crazy because anybody else, your season's over, and his wasn't, which was nuts. All right, let's I follow a couple of fantasy pages. Keyshawn Vaughn is somebody that people are drinking so much of the Kool-Aid. So the Tampa Kool-Aid is almost it's got to be on par with the Cleveland Browns Kool-Aid from last year, right? Like just in team wise, everybody's drinking that Kool-Aid. This is everybody's it team, right?
Yeah, they've definitely gone up the power rankings, but it's because Tom Brady can take it. If you can get 5,000 yards and all those touchdowns out of Jameis, and now, granted, Jameis threw so many picks that he had to throw for 5,000 yards.
True.
So you may have a regression in numbers like that, but anytime there's been a running back that's been with Tom Brady, he can check out of a blitz to a run safety. So it may not be the play called in. So, yeah, you want the running back. And I'm going to tell you, me sitting at the back end of that dynasty draft, I'm looking at him.
Yeah.
You always want running backs, and you want them young because what do we say? They ain't getting a second contract, so I might as well take a shot at a rookie running back at, 111.
Hey, and who is a famous fantasy running back that went in the third round for the Arizona Cardinals when Bruce Arians
David
was
Johnson.
David Johnson. So, and I'm not.
That's part of the hype here.
They handpicked their players. You're like, ooh, wait a minute. And I remember having the argument with Tim about Pat Mahomes. I said, that's handpicked. He's going to be nasty there. Because I seen what he did with Donovan McNabb. McNabb wasn't even that good.
Yeah, Donovan McNabb was throwing at people's feet.
Yeah, he had to have a constant baseball coach because of his poor release.
Yeah, go ahead, P.
So I think part of it is the hype for Tom Brady coming to Tampa. I can just imagine what it's like for Steve in Florida, how many people are talking about this. The other part of it is just absolute hatred that people have for Ronald Jones. And they were talking about whichever one of these running backs landed there was going to be a superstar. People were talking about that being the ideal place. I'm not so sure they've given up on Ronald Jones Jr. They had an opportunity to draft Dobbins in the second round. He was sitting right there for them to take, and they didn't. You mean to tell me they thought, no, let's not take Dobbins. We think Keyshawn Vaughn is really our guy. I don't know about that. I think it showed some confidence in Ronald Jones Jr. I think he's at least going to be the early down back, and he's going to get some goal line carries. Keyshawn Vaughn apparently is better in pass protection and catching the ball. But to be honest with you, I didn't even research him until he was drafted. Because all of a sudden you see these people talking about Keyshawn Vaughn. Like, wait, I didn't even know he wasn't even one of the top 10 backs until he landed in Tampa. And now everyone
he went to a crap school and didn't get a lot of pub.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ronald Jones
SEC school.
Ronald Jones couldn't beat out Peyton Barber. And all of a sudden he's going to be the guy this year, PJ?
You know how much
he definitely beat him out last year. He beat him out last year.
When was that?
Well, he had 7 touchdowns and like 600 yards, 30 receptions. It wasn't a terrible season on his part. I agree. Peyton Barber is awful. And the fact that they just didn't hand him the reins last year.
That's what I'm saying.
Does say something, but Ronald Jones Jr. is still very fast. And he's only 22 years old. Are we ready to give up on it? He's actually younger than Keyshawn Vaughn.
His season was not horrible, actually. You're right, PJ. 170.
It wasn't horrible.
Like,
it just
700 yards rushing at a 4.2 average. Pretty good. 6 touchdowns and then 31 catches for 300 yards.
The problem was it was the constant back and forth. And Bruce Arians isn't usually like that with running backs. So that's why I'm saying if he handpicks one, he's probably going to ride with this guy and at least give him a third down role because Tom Brady's offense is going to be incorporated into that offense. And what does Tom Brady like to do? He likes to check down on running backs and he likes to hit tight ends.
Yep. So this is the way I see it. I see Ronald Jones being Sony Michel.
Early down back, yes.
And Keyshawn Vaughn being James White.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
But, I mean, recently, who's produced more consistently for fantasy? It might be James White. So, especially if you're you got to pay attention. This is when you pay attention to your scoring formats. If you're in a half-point PPR, you want Ronald Jones. If you're in a full-point PPR, you probably want Keyshawn Vaughn. You got to pay attention to it. There's a league that I'm in that rewards 2 points per 10 yards receiving, plus 1 point per reception. I know it's not our leagues. It's a league I joined.
So your running back scores like 87 points a game?
Yeah, the commissioner of the league has Patrick Mahomes, Christian McCaffrey, Michael Thomas. I mean, it's not as bad as that league we joined, Steve, but it's close. It's pretty close. Just saying.
Would you mean when our best player was Josh Rosen?
No, yeah, our best player was what's his name? Jalen Samuel from Pittsburgh. That's our best player. Best. And we also didn't have any of our first, second, or third round picks for the next 2 years.
I would have done it if there was draft picks, but I couldn't do it without a single draft pick. So
and it was $50 buy-in. Like, I mean, you know.
I felt bad, but at the same time, I mean, if I'm a businessman, I'm not buying that business to try to create more business from it.
Yeah, this is this is a hard sell for me.
Yeah, and for that, I'm out.
All right, Mr. Wonderful, chill. All right, so we pretty much hit the running backs then. With Keyshawn Vaughn, I guess it's based on value. If you can get him at the end of the first round, he has, RB2, maybe RB1 upside if everything goes right. But I would not take him over the top 5. I wouldn't do that personally.
But he will not make it. He won't make it out of the first round rookie draft. He was 1-8 in ours.
Steve will take him at 11 if that's the case. Yeah. Like, he won't
make it to 11.
Yeah, I don't think he makes it to 11 either.
His hype is like, I know you said you'd be happy with James White, right? There's hype that this guy is going to be a superstar.
Oh yeah,
he's going to just take over.
It's not necessarily a superstar. It's the offense he's going to be in for 2 years.
That's true.
I don't think it's that they think he's a superstar caliber because James White's not a superstar, but you know what you're getting. You know you're going to have a borderline 1-2 running back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you guys think, and that's what rational football fans would think. But I'm talking irrational people that really think he is going to be the best running back in this draft class, fantasy-wise and everything else.
Yeah, that's the people that, like you said, they read what they say in Tampa. We got this Tom Brady guy. He's supposed to be pretty solid. I think we're going all the way this year. Gronkowski, baby. Yeah, Gronkowski's 31 and just lost 50, gained 30, lost 20. What's he doing to his body?
CBD oil, baby. CBD oil.
I wish
All right, let's this is definitely going long. You know what's funny? You could tell the topics that we all three vibe on super hard. It's fantasy football. That's definitely our number one.
Because we all have different opinions and we can talk about it without trying to kill each other. So it's nice.
Yeah, it is. This is lovely.
I've been threatened once. I don't even know what to do here.
All right, let's talk some wide receivers. So let's go. I don't even know where to start because the order that they got drafted was a little bit different. I guess I'll start with the guy that went first. Henry Ruggs goes to, I almost said Oakland, the Vegas Raiders. By the way, y'all, their stadium is legit, right?
Yeah.
How awesome. It's kind of sad that their sponsor, it's Allegiant, because, if you've ever flown Allegiant, you get what you paid for. It's like the worst flight. You're always delayed. But their stadium is nuts. It's honestly the coolest looking stadium I've ever seen. Anyway, sorry to take us off there. So, John Gruden goes and gets his guy, Henry Ruggs III, at number 12, but then proceeds to take 2 more wide receivers in the first 3 rounds. And one of them, the kid from South Carolina, Brian Edwards, I almost called him Braylon Edwards, but
It's Brian.
Brian Edwards.
Brian.
He looks like he has pretty good potential. So what did you guys think about the Henry Ruggs pick? Give this to me in two parts. That before they drafted the other two receivers, and then after. What did you guys think of the Henry Ruggs pick? Steve, what'd you think?
First, the head always predicted him falling to the Eagles, so I started doing more research, and I hated it in the beginning because I thought he was a one-trick pony, but you looked at his touchdown to reception ratio, he had 24 touchdowns on 98 receptions. So it's almost like 4
quarter.
to 1. 4 to 1. So and then you watch tape. He's more big play than you think. He actually is a possession receiver as well. What I saw was somebody has a ceiling potential of Antonio Brown. But he also has the floor of like a Ted Ginn. So it could be anywhere in between.
Yeah.
But I know when you go into John Gruden's offense as a number one receiver, selected by him, like we're saying, you personally selected. His 1X receivers have been very successful over the years. And you saw a little bit of Amari Cooper in it. You saw Williams in it last year. And Williams isn't even a 1. There's no way in hell he should even have been considered a 1. Yeah. He's more of a 3, a deep threat with a big
3-4.
body. Yeah, and I'd love to have him as a 3-4. The way he played last year is admirable, but it's not something he's going to sustain.
Mm-hmm.
So you see why they brought in. I mean, they brought in Nelson Aguilar. Obviously, they're looking to rebuild that offense. They're throwing darts at a board or poo at a fan and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, that Aguilar deal is small too. Like it's like 1 year for the minimum. So
he is a true slot receiver. He needs to find somewhere where he can be that. When he was forced to be a number 1, he can't do it. This guy's catch radius is literally in front of his face, down to his waist. Put it over his head, he can't catch it.
If he sticks,
I watched him duck below balls. If the kid's falling out of there, drop it like Aguilar.
PJ, what do you think?
I agree that Ruggs is not just a one-trick pony. We've seen so many examples where a team has drafted some speedster that looks like they're going to be the second coming of Jerry Rice.
Hayward big.
And
Yep.
And they just fall flat. I guess I wouldn't compare him to Antonio Brown other than the fact that he has good hands. He's faster than Brown. But what separated Antonio Brown was his route running was just pristine. And I don't think there'll ever be another Antonio Brown. But I just don't think Ruggs is the best. They had a specific thing in mind, a field stretcher, someone that can bring a little bit more potential there. But I think Judy and Lamb are just head and shoulders better in my mind. So I was happy as a Bronco fan that the Raiders picked Ruggs and allowed the Judy to be there for the Broncos.
I could agree with that right now. They're better than him. But we don't know what his potential is. And don't forget, Antonio Brown was a 6th-round pick, and he was a quarterback in college. So
that's true.
You're saying that Ruggs' route running isn't pristine. It wasn't really necessarily displayed either because Jerry Jeudy was such a nasty route runner. It's like, hey, eat these guys up, Ruggs go deep, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Then you got Tua, who's a dynamic quarterback who was a very accurate passer, just dropping dimes. So, yeah, we're going to have to see what Ruggs can do, but what I'm saying is that potential to do more is there. I can understand the pick a little bit, but I think Jeudy would have been a better fit because they have Tyrell Williams, which is a deep threat. So you would have little Jeudy running the routes as a 1X. I think he would have killed it, Amari Cooper style. You know.
It is exciting to have someone that fast who can catch the ball too. Mm-hmm. I mean, there wasn't a problem with drops on that team. But you're right, having a quarterback that just throws it right there. How are you going to drop that?
And how are they going to use him? Is he going to be the underneath guy? Is he going to go deep? Is he going to be all over the field? They're going to move him around a lot. Like, is he going to play solely in the slot? That's what we don't know this yet.
That's the scary part about drafting Ruggs, and that's why I've seen him go in rookie drafts in the first round. I've seen him go in the second round, just because people are scared of number one. They took 3 wide receivers, so that somewhat concerning, I guess. Also, they see Tyreek Evans. they see Tyreek Hill 2 times a year. It kind of feels like they kind of want their own version of that.
Right. It's a copycat league.
Yeah, literally the Atlanta Hawks, they said when they drafted like Herter and, Trey Young, it's like, oh, well, we're going off the Warriors model. Well, that's like the Kmart version of the Warriors, like it's not the same thing.
All
So
they got to do is buy Giannis or something, and it's.
it's true. It's true. That's my basketball moment of the day. Thank you guys. So
I don't think for fantasy purposes, I don't think Ruggs will ever be like 100 reception type receiver. I think he can get a lot of yards and maybe 10, 12 touchdowns, but I can't picture him.
he's like Tyreek Hill's
Possession.
ceiling then, because that's Tyreek Hill's not getting 100 catches.
Right.
everything-
So it's not
yeah.
a bad comparison between those two.
Yeah.
And if his route running is better than we ever got to see, and he is given he's given that X role, go back and look at Gruden's career as a coach, what his X receiver has done. It's top 12 fantasy every year.
Hey, I heard Brad Johnson's coming out of retirement, so they should be good to go. He's going to be the third quarterback behind Mariota and Carr, ready to go just in case anything happens.
He's a Gruden grinder, baby.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to your boy, PJ. Jerry Jeudy, you were pretty excited. I know we were on the phone at this point because it was Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb. And, I mean, with Courtland Sutton, I feel like Jerry Jeudy was, like, the perfect person
Compliment.
you compliment, exactly. So how excited are you for the Denver offense, and what do you think Jerry Jeudy can do? And they also took KJ Hamler later on, who is kind of a smaller, less talented Jerry
Deshaun
Jeudy
Jackson.
in a way, Well, yeah, Deshaun Jackson, speed and everything small, but
That's
do
the
you think?
comparison they're making with Hamler is Deshaun Jackson. I was excited for the Broncos, and I still am incredibly excited for the Broncos as a team and what he's going to mean to them as a football team. But once they drafted Hamler, I was less excited about the fantasy prospects of Jeudy, because Jeudy played the slot too. So I was thinking this guy's going to get everything underneath, can also go outside. They're just going to be throwing to him all the time. I'm not a huge Courtland Sutton fan. He makes too many drops. He's a good end zone target. He's not super fast. So I thought Jeudy was going to be the beneficiary of having him on the other side. But, you also have a tight end who can make plays and who's still young.
And they just drafted another tight end that runs a 4.4. So I mean,
who happened to be playing with the quarterback in college.
What we're saying is it sounds like the Cleveland Browns situation we were talking about before.
Yeah, people are excited about this young quarterback who I don't think is as good as Baker in my mind.
And that's the thing. He didn't do anything compared to what Baker did in his rookie year. Baker's last 9 games of his rookie year were very impressive.
He almost had him in the playoffs.
Yeah. Drew Lock, you go look at the numbers. I mean, he's got a couple good touchdown games. The yardage really isn't there. Completion percentage is.
And they're going to protect him. They brought in better offensive line. Yeah. They're going to run the ball more.
They do. They brought in a really good running back. I've never been sold on those 2 running backs that they had. And Emmanuel left. So at the end of the year, he had nobody to throw to but Sutton.
You can tell PJ's been a Bronco fan for a long time. You don't like anyone there. I don't like him. Not sold.
He jumped on during the Elway days.
That's that salty fan. You better do something soon.
It's been tough since those Elway days, besides my boy Peyton Manning and saving you guys for a little bit. But that's tough.
Yeah, so I'm excited for the Broncos.
He wants to bring Peyton
Fantasy-wise, though, I don't think he's, especially year one, is not going to be the number 1 receiver statistically in this class. I think his future's still great. I think he can just keep on getting better and better. He's the kind of guy that could reminds me of Antonio
Brown. So hold on, PJ. Here's the biggest question: what is Drew Lock's ceiling to you as a Broncos fan? Because I mean,
hold on, he doesn't have his headset on.
Oh,
no, I can hear you.
Okay, he switched.
My headphones went out.
Oh, okay. Like you said, the weapons are there. I mean, the weapons are.
Look at that.
The weapons are all there for him. What do you think? What's the ceiling on this guy? what can he produce for fantasy purposes? Like, because we just saw Jameis produce 2 wide receiver ones in fantasy. What's Drew Lock's ceiling for producing like fantasy relevant players?
Well, he's got a running back. He's got 2 running backs that can catch the ball pretty well. I don't think Jameis had that. He can produce fantasy relevant players. I think both receivers and the tight end can have really good fantasy seasons. They will limit each other. Nobody's going to be, in my mind, like 100. The targets that Cortland Sutton had last year, he can kiss that goodbye. He's not going to have that again. So nobody's going to catch 100. But I think they all can get close to 10 touchdowns.
So you just going to have a bunch of wide receiver 3s? Does anybody crack wide receiver 2?
Well, Sutton's going to be drafted as a wide receiver 1, and I don't think he's going to be there. I would put wide receiver 2, maybe. I think Judy can be a wide receiver 2 with targets.
I don't think Hamler's going to give you that much as a rookie.
No, not for fantasy.
I think he's basically going to be running 9s.
You talking about Andy Isabella type season?
Right. When you guys were talking
I'm
about
not
the
saying
3, I was included in the tight end. I wasn't talking about Hamler. I don't think Hamler is going to be anything fantasy wise. That's the sad part.
So all right. So what's the pecking order for fantasy target wise out of those top 3 you just named?
So my opinion would be Judy, especially because Locke isn't the greatest quarterback in the whole world. Isn't the most accurate
He's
quarterback.
underneath routes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he is going to depend on the guy that runs the best routes, and the second Sutton drops the ball, and then he realizes that Judy's never going to drop it.
Oh, I mean, don't say that. Judy dropped the ball in
Dropped
college.
balls and issues in college.
I think Judy's.
I know everybody just says like, oh, it's concentration issues, but he has a history still of dropping the balls, and we've seen that affect players. Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
Keep bringing up old.
So I'd say Judy would be 1, Sutton 2, Fant 3, and KJ Hamler the scraps.
Yeah.
Well, you probably toss in a running back over him too, as well, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Philip Lindsay. Well, not
actually,
really.
Melvin
See,
Gordon probably
Melvin-
gets 3 down work.
Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, he is. He's a better receiver than even Lindsay. So I don't know what they're going to do.
He went decently late in our recent draft we just did, and he's gonna have a good year.
Career average of 4.0.
Yeah, as long as he stays at that 4, it's golden.
Frank Gore, baby, he could walk for 4.
All right, let's keep it going. CeeDee Lamb goes to Dallas, and this is, I mean, they have Michael Gallup there.
Yeah, not a great landing spot either.
Yeah, none of these
Fantasy wise, player and team wise, great fit.
And that's where we can kind of talk about here after we talk CeeDee Lamb. Let's talk about our favorite landing spots for guys. And there's a little bit of feedback. PJ, can you turn down the volume of us coming through?
Say something.
Say something.
Okay.
Yeah, we're keeping this all in. That's fine.
Okay.
So CeeDee Lamb. I'm not
It's
editing
fine.
it. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb goes to Dallas, though.
You read it like it's a child's book. CeeDee Lamb goes to Dallas.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb. He's in Dallas. What are we thinking? No, that would never be the tone of voice used to read a children's book. But
That's more like Debbie Does Dallas.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't get that reference. I just was laughing just because.
Oh, yeah. I don't get it either. I just heard it. I'm just passing on information.
I get the reference.
Yeah, Steve, you're Steve. You're that middle ground, man. You're in the middle ground. So Steve, I know you were kind of excited possibly about getting CeeDee Lamb in Philly.
Oh,
What do you think
man.
about the fit for Dallas?
I was excited. I was like, Philly's going to trade up right here. And I heard they did try to get to Atlanta, but that's neither here nor there. He is not going to be the 1A, and he could have been the 1A for a few teams, Philly especially. Maybe even not year one because they can't get rid of that Alshon contract, and they're going to make him play to make him tradable or cuttable the next season. So they're going to get the money out of him. But back to CeeDee Lamb. Gallup had a pretty decent season, and Amari Cooper just got paid $20 million. So you're probably still starting out at third on the pecking order. They don't have a great tight end set, so I would expect 3 wide, decent offensive line, and they're going to run the ball a lot. If Dak doesn't succeed now, he's not getting his 40.
No. No. What do you think, P?
Yeah, Amari Cooper is still very good, still very young, and his struggles last year, I'm convinced, had to do with injury more than anything else. And now that he's gotten paid, they've shown confidence in him. It's going to be really hard for anybody to move him off that top dog, the wide receiver 1 on that team. I have more confidence that he'll be wide receiver 2. I think he's better than Gallup, but he's starting out. He's going to have to fight for some targets. Mm-hmm. Gallup may have a few more targets those early season.
Already has a rapport,
CeeDee Lamb could definitely vulture some touchdowns for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big player.
Well, he's a beast.
Yeah, because he's yards after touchdown. Whenever he gets the ball, what he does after it is incredible.
I will say I hope during this quarantine he's putting on some weight because he is under 200 pounds. Yeah, under 200 pounds as a big guy. Same thing with Jerry Jeudy, super small guy. Like you worry about injury, and with Jeudy not as much. I don't want him to gain too much weight, but the way CeeDee Lamb plays, put on a little bit of weight. Like give me 15 pounds of muscle, man. Get
the NFL will
watching The Last Dance. Get that Jordan on, man. Jordan, you're playing the Pistons now. Let's go.
Amen, brother. Preach it.
So we just named the top 3 receivers that went, and they all went to scenarios where, in Dynasty, you're going to draft them.
No one's coming out being receiver 1 for the
Exactly.
team.
So this is really tough for, Dynasty owners who are used to getting a player in, when you draft a wide receiver as your first wide receiver off the board or your first running back, and you get, instant gratification. You're not going to get that this year. Between the COVID and the landing spots, it's funny. The guys like you, Steve, sitting there at number 11, you get Jalen Reagor, you get Justin Jefferson, Michael Pittman. Those are guys that are going to walk into scenarios that are a lot better than the top 3 guys, although they might not be as talented. For fantasy, they might produce more. So out of those, like any of those guys, and, I know I miss like Brandon Ayuk, he can play too. Denzel Mims, the end of the second round, he might be the number 1.
Yes.
Out of these guys, what do you think? Who had the best landing spot in you guys' mind for this season, I guess, for fantasy purposes? PJ, since I see that smile.
Denzel Mims all the way. I think he's going to get targets. So what he does with them is up to him. He's a very good receiver. I don't think he's as good as those top 4, but by far and away the best landing spot. And this has got to be the year for that Adam Gase team. And Sam Darnold, if he's healthy, last year he could blame part of it on injury, but now if he's healthy,
yeah, the mono got him,
his
man.
time.
No mono year 2 or year 3, we're gonna be good. Steve, what do you think?
I agree on Mims. There's a clearest path for playing time. They have no clear-cut 1, so he could come right in and being the best producing rookie just because of situation.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel on your boy Jalen Reagor?
I think he's a great dynasty pickup. He's lower your expectations for year 1 because there's last year at this time we were talking about how this is the greatest receiving core on paper out there. Bunch of injuries and everybody's like, oh my God, they have the weakest receiving core in the league. They're all back.
Yeah, they still have everybody.
Everybody's back, and you're not talking about that. It's not Greg Ward and something Davis. I don't remember his first name. No disrespect to the man. I think it was Rashad or Rasheed Davis or whatever. But these were practice squad guys that you had in front of you. So Reagor's probably going to be rotated in and out, but he's not going to be on the field for 80% of the snaps, I don't think. Unless they give him the slot role.
A lot of people are predicting that he's just going to walk in and put up numbers. But Deshaun Jackson's still there. Alshon's still there. Marquise Goodwin, your boy J.J. Agrilla-Whiteside, he's there still.
Agrilla?
Yeah, I've totally butchered his name.
Oh my god. Artego Whiteside. He said,
Hey, I said that.
Agrilla
No, you
Whiteside.
didn't.
Argrilla. What is Argrilla?
Gorilla. He's the gorilla in Manila.
Hey, man, we know my pronunciations are not my strength. As the host, that's my weakest part of the game right here. Pronunciation
I
is
agree.
horrible. Thanks for putting me on
part of the
blast,
problem-
Steve.
That was hurtful, man.
Part of the problem with why people are just forgetting about Philly's receivers is there are a bunch of ageists in the fantasy community that just assume Jeffrey and Jackson are washed up. But Deshaun in the game and a half, 2 games that he played,
Nasty.
really looked good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think even if he lost a step, he's still faster than everyone else.
We did a 24-round vet draft, and I think I got Alshon either was it the last round, Steve? I got him in the 24th round in that draft.
Yeah, something like that.
And you were
But there
just
was all the trade rumors, and I even told you it was a good pickup because I
Yeah.
knew that they weren't going to get rid of him, and they were they're going to play him because you have to increase his value, and he's got to increase his own value.
Yep. I mean, this is essentially, like you said, this is essentially a contract year for him because.
Well, I picked up Deshaun Jackson in our Fantrax league. He was just out there sitting around. I was like, yeah, I'll drop this guy I'm never going to use for him.
Yeah, I probably should have picked him up instead of still having Deion
Me
Kane
too.
on my roster.
I thought he was owned by someone. Did someone drop him this offseason?
He was just sitting out there. I got to like page 2 or 3 looking at names. I saw his. I said, yay.
Yeah. So, all right. So, like we said, it's funny. Like the people at the back half of the first round, you're going to get some really good starting caliber players that are
And
going to
it's
help your team
BPA.
this season.
It's best player available. It's like you're going to take what falls to you because people
Yep.
are going to take what they think the higher risk reward, and you're just going to get the guy that's probably safer.
Yep. Highest upside, or that's what everybody drafting early is, but you're not going to get any returns on it. So you know what? PJ, you may have thought it was going to be a 1-year tank. Could be a 2-year tank.
You could be 2
Could be a
years away from
3-year
being 2
tank.
years away.
Yeah.
It didn't work. It didn't work.
No, his team was too good to be tanking anyway. So
Well,
you take this guy and sit on him.
Hey, just for context, everybody, he wasted a Lamar Jackson MVP year to tank. Just saying.
I wasn't going to win that last year. Come on.
You were a playoff team. You were a playoff team.
Even if I got in the playoffs,
It's hard to decide week 4 that you're not going to make it.
it was week 7.
You know what? It's out. I'm out.
Yep.
Start folding things up.
Yep.
Where's he going? Oh, he quit.
And then when then when he found out he had to help pay for the trophy, he's like, "Well, wait, I want to finish second."
Second to last.
Second to last.
Second to last. Hey,
Miles were trying to battle it out.
So that's that. So it wasn't a true tank. I was trying to finish second to last.
yeah.
And I
At the
lost.
last
I
second,
didn't.
when he found out about the trophy, he was
Last
like,
2
"Wait, what?
weeks.
Wait, what?"
I knew about the trophy. I just realized there was actually 2 running backs that I would have been happy with.
He was even upset just thinking about it.
It's fine. I'm glad. This was a great podcast. A lot of evidence happened on this one. So, I can't pronounce things apparently. PJ finally admitted that he tanks. And if you're watching this at home, Steve's hair is luscious. Luscious,
looks like
most luscious
Jesus.
hair in the game.
Is
Look at
that
that.
length in the back or is that your headphones?
No, that's length, baby.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
not
his
the
hair is
first
really
time,
grown.
that's not the first time Steve's heard that on this podcast.
I don't understand that reference. So
Yeah.
guys all have
They
to-
said barbers
You
are
millennials will
essential
have to
during
explain.
quarantine. So
No, they're not. Hey, you need to have Tim come over with some clippers and just.
I'd like to be able to go out in public.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, I thought everything was open in Florida. You guys can't. Your hair places aren't open.
Barbers are not essential yet.
Mm.
They're in like phase 2 or 3.
They're-
Gyms aren't open yet, and I'm getting fat too.
Yeah.
Since we're just pointing things out.
Hey man, I've lost 7 pounds. And my beard's
I
coming.
found them.
I'm looking, getting cleaner. That Peloton bike, baby. I'm just pedaling away.
I
Using
used
my
to
little
have
boat
muscle
flex.
mass. I don't got nothing no more. Like I feel like 7 years ago.
I'm looking a little slim. The man boobs are tinier than they've been in months. I might be
boobs are
sub
going
B
down,
cup
baby.
again. I'm just under a B again. It's nice. Like,
The
it's funny.
highlight of my life.
It's funny. I feel
I'm a
better
football
about myself now, and nobody can see me except you guys and the 4 people that watch us on YouTube, and that's it.
Thank you, you four. Appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of the, our journey here.
Now,
All
what
right.
does all this have to do with fantasy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is all fantasy.
Oh man, salt and vinegar
nice.
chips down here. Just trying to burn the roof of your mouth, aren't you?
Mm-mm. No. Hey, guys, this was a lot of fun. I love talking fantasy football. We could literally do more diving in on this. Sorry this episode was longer than you guys probably anticipated, but I think it was a good listen. So I will see you guys later in the week for the 100th episode, which we're still figuring out what crazy things we're going to do. If you have suggestions, if you listen to this before we record on Wednesday night and you have a suggestion for something that you'd like us to do, I'll put a social media post up. Let us know. We'll do it. PJ loves doing embarrassing stuff in front of a Zoom camera, so he loves it. So, just make sure to hit us up on social media. Guys, do you have anything else you wanna hit on?
Nah, man, you about covered all of it.
All right, boys. It was great to see your beautiful faces. And
PJ looks so done. He's just like, yeah, right.
And that's it. I will.
All right.
Yeah. I'll talk to you.
He's been done for the last 2.5 minutes. Just end it.
Hey, his wife knows that feeling. All right, I'm out of here.
Oh! Look at his face.
You guys do realize what I do for a living, right?
I love that we do this via video now. This is so much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Look, I've never seen the death stare. Look at it.
You can't, Chris. You can't put this part on social media.
Oh, it's definitely.
I mean, you can
going
have you can have the audio because they got to listen to it to find it. But don't you dare cut this end part out and put, "Hey, check out our new podcast." Because then I'll be doing podcasts for a living, and that's it.
I will not. Well, I mean, hey, the fully committed PJ, I'm all in. That's great.
I just want you to know I kept it clean.
Yeah, get your.
I'm usually the problem.
Yeah. Well, hey, when we have a couple adult beverages while we do episode 100, things might get a little crazy. All right, guys.
All right.
All right.
Time
Talk
to
to you
cut.
later.
Yeah. Later.
All right. Talk to you later.